Good afternoon, or good morning if you're joining us from the West Coast. I'm Michelle Shimp, and I'm the Acting Associate Administrator for the Office of International Trade in the U.S. Small Business Administration. Thank you so much for participating in this interactive Access Live event. Our goal today is to make you aware of the grants that are available to small businesses through the State Trade Expansion Program, or STEP as we call it. And we want you to be able to understand how it can help you grow your business's global sales. In the last 10 years, STEP has helped over 12,000 businesses sell more than $4 billion worth of goods and services overseas in 140 different countries around the world. You'll hear today from two small businesses that have taken full advantage of STEP to support their global sales success. And our conversations with them will be introducing you to the program and give you ideas on how you can use it. So over the next half hour, you're going to get some great information from them. And we hope that you'll stay on the line to participate in the question and answer as well. Before we get started, I'm just going to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. We want your questions, and there are two ways that you can ask questions, and you can ask them at any time. If you're joining us by phone, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and a member of our staff will collect your question. Again, if you're on the phone, that's *3. Or if you're viewing the event online, you can enter your question in the question and answer box, Q&A box, that's located below the streaming player. Also, if you're online but you're not connected to the visual portion and you want to connect, all you have to do is hit *8 now on your phone and you'll receive a text message that'll give you a link to the streaming player. And then finally, you see this QR code here on the screen. For those of you on the screen, we want to get your participation and hear from you related to a number of questions we have for you. This is anonymous input unless you choose to give us your information. And our survey is web-based, so you don't have to download anything. It's just like being at the restaurant. If you're on the phone, hover over, and you can see the screen now, just hover over that QR code. Our questions will come to your phone. Or if you prefer, you can use your web browser. You'll have to go to, it's called www.slido.com. That's SLIDO. And there's a participant code, 205-257, that you enter at the top of the page. Again, that's 205-257. A reminder, this is completely anonymous, but we really want to make this participatory, and we welcome your ideas, your advice, and your experiences, because that'll help us better support you. So with all that covered now, I'd like to turn it over to Steve Sullivan, who will be the moderator for our discussion. Steve's a Senior International Trade Advisor at the SBA, and he'll introduce you to our fantastic business participants. Steve?
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have two awesome company owners on the call today. I'm going to let them do most of their introduction. I'm just going to say we got Deborah Dudley is kind of one of these STEP success stories that really got kind of boosted into her international trade success through STEP, and Keith Ives, the causal design, is someone who used STEP a little later. So I think they got some good perspective on how to use the program. And I'm just going to, since they're the real heroes of this story today, I'm going to turn it over to them. I'm going to ask both of them, please tell us a little bit about your company. So Deborah, why don't you start?
Well, first of all, we make outdoor grilling delicious. And it all started in our backyard when my late husband and I invented a product that we called a grill topper. We were grilling everything from delicate fish to seafood, fresh vegetables. And this product that you're seeing now is our porcelain-coated steel topper. The durable, heavy steel is coated with our signature porcelain coating. And as you can see, it allows all this delicious food to stay on the grill where it belongs. That's what we did to outdoor grilling. We totally reinvented outdoor grilling, and for 32 years, we have continued to develop new toppers that will let you grill everything from pizza to pancakes. We do all the manufacturing, all the packaging, all the product design, and we ship all of our products from the small town of Bonneville, Kentucky. This product here is our disposable aluminum topper. That's for messy foods, but again, you can see it keeps all your food on the grill, and this product is 100% recyclable. We make products and ship them all over the United States and all over Europe. So if you're grilling, don't forget the Oscarware, because you can grill everything that you would cook indoors on your grill, and even your Thanksgiving turkey, right, Steve?
That's right, Deborah. I was going to say, Deborah convinced me last year when I met her to try the turkey grilled, and it was fabulous. So I highly recommend it. So thanks, Deborah. I'm going to turn it to Keith now to do his introduction. Keith?
Great, thanks. Well, I started Causal Design just over 7 years ago. And unlike a lot of your kind of normal, or what people think of as exporters, we don't have a tangible product. Causal Design provides technical support, research, statistical and economic analysis to firms and governments and nonprofits all over the world. 7 years ago, in response to Typhoon Haiyan, which was a super typhoon in the Philippine Islands, I began providing support and research to bring more data and analytics into the way that the U.S. government and humanitarian actors all over the world were responding and supporting those communities. Since then, over the last 7 years, we've worked in over 35 countries. We work for the U.S. government, the British government, the Australian government, probably a dozen other governments in Southeast Asia and in Sub-Saharan Africa. And also have offices, permanent offices in Cambodia and in Malawi, in addition to our headquarters here in Denver.
Great, thanks. And so we'll stick with you, Keith, with this second question. How did you get into exporting or international business? You talked about all you're doing.
Right. Well, I was kind of like I was mentioning, we were an exporter from day one. Our product, statistical services and research, surveys, from day one, we're actually focused internationally. And it wasn't until probably our third year in business that we had our first domestic or U.S. sale, where we worked with a couple of other government programs in communities in the U.S. I personally, over a decade ago, served in the Marine Corps, and it was my experience overseas, being deployed and working in the Middle East, that showed me kind of the humanitarian need and kind of the crisis of poverty in some of these countries and communities. It was after that I got into work in disaster response, working with the Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders and organizations like that, and then eventually transitioned and started from the entrepreneurial sense, Causal Design, to help provide support to those organizations. Again, exporting some of the top economic and statistical research services that we have with our high human capital here in the U.S. to organizations and governments, as well as the private sector overseas.
Great, thanks, Keith. Deborah, how about you? How did the Oscarware get into exporting?
In 2014, I was invited to be part of the Kentucky governor's trade mission to the United Kingdom. And that's when I was first introduced to the STEP grant. Working with the SBA team here in the STEP grant, paying for all of my travel, my hotel, meals, matchmaker sessions that were set up for me by the trade team to meet with potential customers there in the United Kingdom, that allowed me to get feedback on my product, learn more about the competition there. But most importantly, what was really the thing that pushed the door open was going to the United Kingdom. The trade mission was making 2 stops while there. One was in London, and the other stop was in Manchester. Manchester was only 45 minutes to Leeds. And in Leeds, there was a customer there by the name of Asda, which is one of the top big four retailers in the United Kingdom. Well, when we started our business back here in the USA in 1989, we went to a trade show. A man walked in the booth, gave us a business card, and said, "We like this product you're calling a grill topper." That was Walmart. Walmart was our very first customer here in the USA. We were going to be close to Asda in the United Kingdom, and I thought, could Asda be our first customer there in the United Kingdom? So I reached out to my buying team here in the USA and asked them if they could help me make that connection with the buying team there in the United Kingdom with Asda. And they helped me make that connection. I had that face-to-face meeting with Asda. That was in 2014. In 2015, we shipped our very first container to Asda in the United Kingdom, and we are still shipping Asda today.
Great. So what I want you to talk about now, Deborah, we're gonna stick with you for a sec. How has STEP helped you to grow your international sales? So what role has that had in all your success?
Well, first of all, it's helped me sustain and grow my Asda business, and through my partnership and support with my buying team at the Army, Air Force, and Exchange, my products are on the shelves in the military retail stores in 10 other countries. But the STEP grant also has reimbursed me for expenses on my current business since 2014, approximately $45,000 since 2014. You know, all the customer required audits, the packaging changes that you have to do in order to do business with a certain customer in another country, product testing, all those things are reimbursed by the STEP grant. But what has really made a difference is this year, they have allowed that money to be used to globalize your website. That is something that has opened that global door really big. Because as you all know, we're sitting here today having a virtual meeting with people, and I'm sitting in my office in Bonneville. So the STEP grant, to me, has not only helped me get that first customer in the US or in the United Kingdom, but it allowed me to grow business. But now they've gave me a window to the world with allowing me to have meetings virtually with someone in any country I choose to do so. And in working with my international trade team here, in the last month, I have had calls with Australia, Mexico, and Canada, and I've not left this chair. So that's what they've done for me.
Yeah, and you know, I'd add that we helped connect you with the folks at Department of Commerce who are setting up those meetings for you in those other areas. So just by being part of our network, you kind of tap into the other ones. So I love your story because you kind of got your start there with using the STEP to go to that first trade show and get that big client, and have really been productive at taking advantage of it since then. So I want to turn it to Keith now to hear, because I know you learned about STEP a little later. But how has STEP helped you grow your international sales?
Yeah, that's right. We just learned about STEP a year ago, and it was one of those, face palm moments of wishing you'd known about this resource 6-7 years ago. But last year we did find out about the STEP program and immediately applied for a grant through the STEP representative for the state of Colorado. And we've used it to do two things. One, first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, we do research all over the world. A lot of the countries that we work in are actually low income or developing countries that don't have the high speed internet and bandwidth that we have here in the US, or even in places like Europe. So the first thing we did is we engaged a web designer to help us optimize our website for lower bandwidth settings. so that those features that we need our clients overseas to see are accessible to them, whether they're on a lower speed internet or on their mobile device. The second piece that we did was invested in translation of our website into two of our target markets. And our largest overseas market is Cambodia. And so we have had our website translated into Khmer, the local language there, again, to help us facilitate marketing and trade in Cambodia. On that same grant request, with this focus on Cambodia, we also received funding or the opportunity to have reimbursement for an additional trade mission, a trip to do more sales and marketing work in Cambodia. We haven't done that trip yet because of COVID, but the office has been really flexible with us, and we're kind of waiting for the green light on travel restrictions to get over there.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, it's really interesting step. In the early years of STEP, so much of those funds went to, like Deborah had used it initially to help travel to that trade show, but the last couple of years has been quite a change in international travel, which really kind of brings me to the next question. I'll stick with you, Keith, on this. How has the COVID crisis affected your business?
Yeah. Well, I guess top line, it's been tough. The majority of our work is centered around, conducting and managing surveys, data collection, and research overseas. And without the ability to get on planes and fly around the world to support these initiatives, our work and the demand for our services has been in huge decline. In 2020, we saw about a 30%, 36% reduction in our revenue. This year, we're seeing that return to normal. But this is where I'm really grateful to be an exporter and to have clients all over the world, because while the domestic market in the U.S. was really slow at the beginning of 2020, Cambodia hadn't really hit the pandemic crisis yet, and we were able to still maintain full operations there. Now Cambodia is in crisis, and kind of what is more of their first wave of the pandemic. While we're seeing higher vaccination rates, we're seeing more of the economy open up. So our ability to be operational in Cambodia while Malawi was shut down, or operational in Malawi while Cambodia was shut down, has essentially been a diversification of our portfolio against this type of risk. But as you alluded to in the very beginning, a lot of our work has moved online. We've done more surveys over telephone, over email, setting up remote call center type of strategies, and doing a lot of business on video conferences like we are now. That's part of also where we've invested more in our website, because we are seeing more traffic and more marketing and more sales success come through our website than we have before, where it was almost always face-to-face networking. It was on the ground meeting people and word of mouth.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was talking recently to a company from North Carolina that's used STEP on the website stuff, and they've been kind of creating local websites in Mexico and Canada, and just couldn't. They were raving about how happy their distributors were, because it was all of a sudden the distributors were getting all kinds of calls just from that local connection. So I think you're definitely on to something there. So how about Deborah? How's COVID affected your business?
Well, COVID really, it's hard for me to say this, Steve, because there's been so many businesses that have had a really rough year or two with COVID. And it's not just here in the USA. This is a global pandemic, so it's affected things everywhere. But people were staying home. They were out of work. They were staying home. They were cooking a lot more, grilling a lot more. And we were fortunate enough to be able to stay open and continue to ship our customers the toppers that they needed, because people were buying them. All of our customers were in so groceries, so they were wide open. So we actually had an increase in business. And the travel stopped. I mean, global travel, I used to meet with my clients 2 or 3 times a year face to face. So that's still not back for me. But the global connections and being able to reach more people with being right here and not having to get on a plane and travel and be gone 4 or 5 days or maybe a week to pitch my product to someone in Australia or Mexico. It's opening up more opportunities for me to reach and arrange more global virtual meetings through my Commerce International team. And that's how it's affected me. And it's kind of made me more excited, or it has made me more excited about growing my export business because I can reach more people quicker. And it's really hard for me, being the president and owner of a manufacturing business, to be on a plane and be gone for weeks at a time. So I can sell my product better than anyone else can because I invented it and I manufacture it. For me to be able to sit here and meet someone face to face and show them a grill topper and tell them how great my product is that's in another country is going to help me grow my export business.
Yeah. And I bet those clients you're talking to all the time now on the line love your pink office as much as I do, Deborah. So,
I hope so. I hope so.
And remind me, what percentage of Bonnieville do you employ?
The town's population is a huge, almost 300 people total, and I have 32 employees. So that's a little over
10%.
So we have heart and we love it here. It's beautiful here. No red lights.
Steve and Deborah, there are some people on the line that don't know how to see Deborah's beautiful pink office because they can't watch it live.
Oh.
And I'm going to jump in to just let you know that if you want, you can join the SBA's Facebook page, and it is running live right now on SBA's Facebook page. Back over to you all. Sorry to interrupt there.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm going to go, the last question, Deborah, will stick with you. What advice do you have for other small businesses considering global market opportunities?
The first thing, you got to apply for the STEP grant. It's easy. Then you've got that backup, that reimbursement for that global business that you need to go for. The second thing is reach out to your small business development team, your SBA teams. They're there for you. The resources that you have through them are free. I look back in 1989, these resources weren't there. We used to go to trade shows, expensive trade shows. Today, we have this resource team out there. They've helped me. They can help you. They can open these doors. They have for me. They have helped me sustain my business. They have helped me grow my business. They can help you. So those two things are there for you that were not for me. When there was no computers, no emails, now we have resources that can get you where you want to be, and you need to use them because they're there, and these people are passionate for small business. So that's my advice.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Deborah. Keith, how about you? Wrap it up. What advice do you have?
Yeah, I think a few things. One, as I alluded to in the beginning, our firm and our work being diversified over a global portfolio is a risk management tool. When things like the pandemic happen, or natural disasters happen, or political things happen, we don't have to worry about any of our single markets because we're in 35 different markets around the world. So a lot of people get scared and think about the risks of exporting and the risks of going global, but there are a lot of real benefits to it. Specific to the resources of the SBA and grant and the STEP grant program, use them. It's almost like cheating. You get to reduce your overhead You get to reduce the cost of investing in these new markets, and there's just no reason to not do it. Um, and on the execution of the step, remember that it's a multi-year game. You can apply every year. So this year we focused on Cambodia. Next year, with our STEP grant application, we're going to be focusing on a new market in Latin America. And the year after that, we'll see. It kind of aligns up with our long-term strategy. But this isn't a one-time thing. You can go for it over and over again. Make a long-term plan.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you both. That was great information. I'm going to ask you to hang around for a little bit to see if anybody has questions coming in from the audience. But for the moment, we're going to turn to one of our STEP administrators out of the state of New Jersey, because we just wanted to kind of get a feel for what they're seeing out from the folks that are delivering the program on the ground. So Bill Spear is hopefully on the line, and I got a question for you. You there, Bill?
Yes, I am, Steve.
Great. Thanks for joining us. So
Thank you.
my quick question for you, as a grant administrator, how has STEP changed for you over time, and what do you foresee for the future of STEP?
Well, we are in our 9th year with the STEP program, the state of New Jersey, and I'm not sure, but I think Deborah might have said it, that early on the STEP was almost exclusively for trade shows, trade missions. There was some USPS participation, but it was basically mostly experienced exporters who wanted to get on a plane and fly into country. And then COVID-19, and New Jersey is not really different than anybody else, for most of calendar year 2020, we absolutely saw there were very few awards, no reimbursements whatsoever. And it was just money that people were trying to figure out, how they could deploy. We had a couple of companies who jumped into virtual events, and the virtual events that New Jersey firms participated in had really mixed results. To, anywhere from, well, that was okay, to, Bill, you could pay us twice as much and we won't do another one. So, the first wave of virtual events came and left, and nobody was really inspired. But all of a sudden, something really, really significant happened, and it started with our new to export companies. And when I do want to make a point, new to export is just the age of the company. It's not the age necessarily of the people running the company. But the companies that had been around 2 years or 3 years and had intellectually committed to exporting, they realized they could not get on a plane. And so they knew that that was not an option for them. But they knew that there was some significant money through the STEP program that was available for, intelligently using that. And so, if I can get to my first slide, if it's not up already, the first website and e-commerce awards really en masse went to the new to export firms. They approached our office, we approached them, and they said, look, A, I can't get on a plane, but B, I use my website for everything else. Why can't I use my website to be the frontispiece of our export endeavors? And so suddenly, the new to export companies were the savvy kids on the block. I mean, they got in front of this and they said, all right, here's how it's being defined by SBA and being implemented by the state of New Jersey. And then they treated it like a Rubik's Cube and said, what if I twist it just a little bit? Is that still an allowable activity? Or what if I twist it back the other way? And so the most creative part of the universe of New Jersey companies really quickly became the new to exporting companies. And they were getting, significant funding for their websites, e-commerce, website translations, and then translating their product literature. And then our more experienced companies, companies that have been exporting for 10 years, and, if you walked up to them and say, well, how do you promote your products or services in other countries? They'd say, well, I book a flight. And they suddenly realized, well, flights were not happening anytime soon. And so they were kind of a little bit later to the game. They needed something to maintain a presence internationally. And so they too gravitated to the website and what the STEP could do for their website. And so if we can go now on to my second slide, what we saw in the state of New Jersey from Q5 through Q7, and that's going to be Q5 of Step 8, 1, 2, and 3 of Step 9, is for Step 8, a very steep upward climb. You can see the percentages there. Those are website and e-commerce awards reimbursements for the two programs over the respective quarters. And then in Step 9, 0 reimbursements Q1, 17% in Q2, and then our most recently reported quarter, 91%. Of all of our reimbursements, these are not new awards. These are where companies are taking STEP funds, deploying them, utilizing them, and then coming up to us for reimbursement. And so we see website e-commerce, website translation, the translation of catalogs and product literatures, fly sheets, things like that, all that. Nobody is anticipating that to go away, because I'm not sure who said it. I think, again, it was Deb. If you've got an executive or a sales manager who can be 90% effective from sitting in a desk, why would you beat yourself up by going on a plane 3/4 of the way around the world when you can do a lot of that same effective work from your website? And so we're seeing that becoming quickly a mainstay of companies' mentalities. And again, as the SBA continues to allow, that's how we're going to be reimbursing. So we don't see that going away anytime in the near future.
Right. Thanks, Bill. And one of the things that we haven't mentioned today, pre-COVID, we had a limit of $3,000 for e-commerce related things on STEP, and like mid-COVID that went up to $6,000, then it went up to $10,000. So certainly STEP is putting a lot of investment into that, and thank you for all the great work you guys are doing in New Jersey to help get those funds out. And particularly, we love to hear about those new to export companies getting started.
And Steve, I got to tell you, with the SBA moving those limits up, and just taking somewhat of an expansive view of what actually is an export promotion activity, there are companies probably who have accelerated their push into exporting by at least a year, if not two, because suddenly they're looking and they're saying, well, this is what I'm doing now, and what they're doing now, maybe 3 years wasn't really going to be qualifying for that. But the activities that they're doing now are square within the allowable activities. And so, we're just really pleased. What the SBA has done, they've aggressively, expanded these categories, and the companies in New Jersey are, utilizing them, and we're really pleased to be in the midst of all that. So thanks for that.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, Bill, I'm curious about how many companies a year do you fund through New Jersey STEP?
You know what? I wish you'd asked me that beforehand, and I would have gotten that number. It's pushing 100 easily. I think this time around we probably are above 100, because if you can't go to a show like say the Farnborough Air Show, and the amount of money to have a booth at Farnborough, you could buy a house in a lot of parts of this country. But if you're saying, look, I can go online, I can target this through an online mechanism, instead of maxing out at 20,000, maybe somebody only needs 7,500 or even 10,000 for their online presence. And so the number of awards has increased because the per average award of the companies has gone down because, these very, very expensive trade shows are no longer really big ticket items. It's, what can I do to translate my product catalog? What can I do to target leads into the UK for the Farnborough Air Show or the Paris Air Show? So I'll get back to you on that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be north of 85, and I think it's hitting 100 this time around.
Yeah, great. And another point I'd make about one of the benefits of STEP is that it's typically administered through the state agent, the state trade promotion agency. So a lot of times they can also leverage their contacts to do things like you talk about those big trade shows, but maybe they're part of a state trade show where small businesses can get a piece of a bigger booth, that type of thing that they otherwise wouldn't be able to participate on in their own.
Absolutely.
So.
And you bring up something very, very timely. Earlier today, we were working with USCS, and we are very fortunate here in New Jersey. We actually have two USCS offices, North Jersey and South Central Jersey. And those two offices have coordinated, and next week we'll be implementing a virtual trade mission into India. And this morning was the briefing of that. And, if a company had to go and do something on their own, I'm not going to say it would have been prohibitive, but their costs would have been a lot more. But because, we do have economies of scale, I want to say we had 6 STEP clients, and I think we might have had 8 companies from New Jersey. So we had some economies of scale. And then we had USCS, which for us is and remains the gold standard of partners for connecting overseas. I think we were in the $1,200 per company category for the virtual trade mission, something like that. So lower prices, high quality services. You don't get the wear and tear of traveling all over the planet. Although I hear trade winds is being maybe talked about next year. It's a rumor. I'll let you guys confirm that. But these virtual events are evolving into very effective and very efficient ways to export products around the world.
Yeah, and just for those on the phone that aren't aware of the acronym, USCS is the U.S. Commercial Service, which is kind of a big partner for STEP as well. A lot of their services get financed through STEP grant, and a great way to access foreign markets. So, with that, I'm going to turn it back to Michelle to go into the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. And Deborah, Bill, Keith, thank you for such great information. So, I know some people need to drop off the call right now, so I want to please remind you the website to find out if your state participates in STEP. And 48 states and territories have active current awards. That's www.sba.gov/STEP. So for those of you that are staying on, we do have some questions that have come in, and we want to get started with those. But remember, press *3 on your phone keypad at any time if you have additional questions, or put them into the chat Q&A box. And I did just want to add, because I know a thought on a lot of people's minds is, if 48 states and territories participate, which ones don't? It's a really short list. It's Alaska, South Dakota. Florida has programs, but they're not STEP programs, but Enterprise Florida is a great contact. American Samoa and the Marianas Islands. So if you're living someplace else, STEP's for you, and just go visit that. You can even just Google it, SBA and STEP, SBA.gov and STEP, and it'll come up. So first question is for Bill. People want to know who's eligible. Are there any restrictions on eligibility?
Well, there are. And, a company has to have been in business for more than a year. So, if you register your new business in New Jersey on Monday of this week, and you came to our office and said, look, I'd like to apply, regrettably, for the current funding cycles, you would not be eligible. So the firm would have to have been in existence for a year. It has to be selling goods or services. And Keith, I wanted to point out in New Jersey, one of the really exciting developments over the last 12 months is the number of services companies that have begun exporting. We're really excited about that. But Keith and Deborah both make the point, goods or services, you've got to be exporting those. And then both have to have a 51% or more U.S. content. And I'm sorry, there's a fourth criteria. You have to be small in the eyes of the SBA. And the SBA has a NAICS-based size determining tool. But if you hit all four of those qualifying points, then we encourage you to apply. Now, I do want to point out one thing. Those are just the bare minimums to be considered eligible. Then you're going to talk with us, and we're going to try and get a sense of what exactly you want to do, and we'll talk a bit amongst ourselves. And if you're presenting something that maybe has a better chance for success or a higher rate of return, New Jersey, like any of the states, we're all in on the return on investment. We'll talk with you about that. But those four criteria up front, if you hit those, then we would definitely want to have a talk with you.
Terrific, thanks. And I think actually, Steve, this is kind of for you. Some businesses want to know where they can get a mentor and get help in applying for a STEP grant. And especially, if it's a new business and they have to wait, where can they get help before that?
Yeah, usually the first place I'd recommend is the small business development centers, which are really all around the country. I think there's close to 1,000 locations, and they're typically connected to institutions of higher education, but they're there. They're a partner of SBA. We fund half of their budget, and they just kind of work with companies to do business planning, and they're really well connected to the resources in that area. So if you're kind of an early stage company, I think that SBDC is a great place to start. Also, SCORE, which is another resource partner of SBA, they do online counseling. So either one of those, I think, would be a great place to start.
Terrific. And in terms of where to go in order to figure out how to apply, you just go to sba.gov/step, and there will be links to your particular states and their application processes and their websites. So we've got a gentleman who's...
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Michelle, I
No?
neglected to mention, like you can Google find an SBDC or SCORE, and then there'll be you'll get a search box by zip code of your location, or SCORE has by topic search. So same way. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that.
Terrific. Thanks so much. So we've got a gentleman who's in the tourism industry, and he's curious whether the STEP program can assist him and how he works through the state government's bill. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we do. That for us typically is not something that we're able to support through the STEP program. The state of New Jersey has a fairly robust tourism industry. We do have an exceptional office of individuals who can provide support for that. But that typically for us is not going to be an area that we get that much involved with. There are, you raise a good point. The gentleman raises a good point. There are a couple areas that are somewhat exempt. That education is not an area that we get involved with. But for us in New Jersey, we would steer you over to the state's tourism department.
All right, fantastic. There's also a question about the types of service businesses that qualify for and have benefited from STEP grants. Would you like to talk to that one too, Bill?
Sure. And, Keith, his entire
That's true.
business line
Good
is
point.
with this. But in New Jersey, what we've had this time around, it's really, in the midst of a lousy COVID year, to see some of these companies that have said, we want to take a flyer on this. We've had a company that sells insurance services, and they sell their services to foreign governments, to help those governments set up insurance platforms in their home country. That's one. We've had engineering services. That's not so new to the STEP program. We've had that, small numbers, but fairly regular numbers for probably 5 years now, 6 numbers. A fashion service, selling fashion style design into other countries. Trying to think, there's a fourth that I'm thinking of. Oh, environmental services, which is kind of a cousin of engineering services. So those are the ones that we find. Also, too, a lot of times when a manufacturer is selling a product, a service component goes along with that. Not all the time, but it's possible for that. So, if I happen to be, pick something here in New Jersey, if I happen to be selling clean water machinery, and I also sell a 2-year service agreement, both of those are directly related to the STEP grant. So I would say to the manufacturers that are with us today, kind of look at your core line, what the tangible part of your goods and services, but then also say, what can I sell as an add-on for maintenance, service, replenishment, upkeep, etc.? Think in those terms as well.
Great, thanks. I think it would be good if we put up that slide again of what STEP covers, the allowable costs, and it would, some of the audience want to understand again from Deborah and Keith exactly which ones you took advantage of. Maybe we can start with Keith, given your service orientation, and again, just remind folks which ones you used and what was the result.
Absolutely. So we've already used the reimbursement for our website optimization for global sales. And our work would also fall under the translate websites to attract foreign buyers. So ours probably falls under both those categories. We also left in our proposal a little bit of budget for an in-person trade mission. We have not done that this year because of ongoing travel restrictions.
Thanks, Keith. Hey, Deborah, how about you?
Well, we're definitely using the STEP grant for updating our website. That has been a very much needed thing we needed to do. We pushed things off for a while, but with the pandemic and with the virtual presence being so important now, the STEP grant has already paid for everything that we've done to our website. Again, we're working with our commercial trade team here to make the connections with trade teams in other countries. There is some fees that are associated with, working with them and all the information that is needed in order to enter that country, such as marketing and media information, translations, anything that we find out in making the virtual, when actually talking to the people that we're working with in Australia and in Canada and Mexico. There is some translations that are required for that. The virtual meetings, definitely, that is great. I can't tell you how much of a help that's going to be in order to meet more people globally.
That's super. Thanks. I'm going to address a couple of questions that I see coming in myself. We've got a manufacturer that wants to know, is there anything for people in manufacturing? I'm going to let you know that 60% of STEP grants across the country go to manufacturers. It's really the sweet spot of the program. So we've got that to offer, definitely. And I notice you're in Florida, so you should talk to Enterprise Florida. And if you've got offices anywhere else, you may be eligible for a STEP grant in another state. There's also a question in here, and feel free to chime in with other advice, anybody else, but it's, a business that's getting started, and it says, can STEP grants be used in order to finance that startup? And I will say, depending on what you're trying to do in terms of getting started, SBA also offers loan programs. And so we'd be really pleased to talk to you separately via your contacts if you share those contacts with us, or you could also email international@sba.gov. And we'd be happy to talk to you about the various supports that SBA offers in addition to the STEP grants program. And let's see, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in here that looks good. Oh, we have somebody who's exporting a digital product. Bill, do you know if it's a digital product that needs translation? How would New Jersey view that?
Well, New Jersey would turn around, talk with the company, and say, and ask what's going to sound like a very, very basic question. You know, what does it mean to translate that, you know, product? I mean, if it's and digital product can mean a billion things. Let's say, for sake of argument, the Asbury Park Press, which is a New Jersey newspaper, wanted to make itself available to French readers. It believes it has a tremendous presence in France or in French-speaking countries that are basically expats of Asbury Parks. We would then talk with them in a couple of different ways. You can consider marketing or advertising through publications in those countries, those French-speaking countries. You can consider maybe translating that part of your website or the entire website into French, and it you know, obviously it can be any language, and then try to market that to French speakers around the world. What we are really kind of excited by, and what we are being educated on monthly, is SEO, search engine optimization. So how do you take a website that historically, you know, was, you know, housed on the Jersey Shore, and how do you find a French-speaking person who wants to learn about what it's going to be like here in September in New Jersey, particularly at Asbury Park? So, you know, SEO, translation into French, French publications, things like that. You know, we could even see, let's say for sake of argument, there's an online platform in France, and products, goods, and services are being sold there. And the company says, but this Asbury Park Press says, you know what, I know that if I could get on that online platform in France, I would be able to sell, you know, my publication, market my goods and services through that. So we would help them, you know, get onto that French platform, and make themselves available to the French-speaking audience in France or wherever that country might be. So there's just a couple of things. If there's a specific industry, we'd probably try to tailor it to that as well. But I would say whoever has that question, chat with their local STEP office. I think you'll be surprised the number of options that are given to you for consideration.
Thanks. That's terrific. I see that some people already have particular markets that they've identified. It would be good to know from anybody in the group, you know, if you ever used STEP in order to take advantage and do the research in order to enter into that particular market. I think it was Keith, you were mentioning that you've done a lot of that, Cambodia and other places, correct?
Well, yeah, Cambodia was a market. I think all of the markets that we're in today, we went into kind of blindly. A lot of times it was me years ago taking a plane and landing on the ground and wandering around trying to find people, trying to find our customer. We've used the current STEP grant this past year to build out and find more clients in the Cambodia market. But I had also noted how, you know, we have a multi-year plan now, and our intention next year is actually to move into Latin America, and we would be using the STEP grant to as well as the network and the connections of staff in these STEP offices to try to do just that, do a trade mission, go in, meet and greet, and do that market research to find our customers or find out if there are customers for us in that market.
That's great. Thanks so much. And Bill, we've got a potential exporter who's concerned about prohibitions in exporting their product due to defense concerns and all. Can you explain how you typically work with companies to navigate that world of export controls?
Boy, that's a tall order. And what I would do right off the bat, if there is a belief that there is going to be an existing obstacle, whether it is from our government here in the U.S. or a foreign government around the world, that's going to get between a seller of a U.S. product and a foreign buyer. You definitely want to go to your clearest U.S. Commercial Service office and you want to initiate a conversation. Their role is to help companies get the resources to navigate that path. And I can say that in New Jersey, they are superb at providing introductions to the people inside defense, experts inside of U.S. commerce that can begin to have that dialogue and begin to present resources that will address that. But that would be the first call I would make. I would not be to, maybe should we think about this? USCS, U.S. Commercial Service, start that conversation. Be prepared to talk about the technology or the product that you have. Be prepared to talk about the country that you're trying to sell into. And if you have firsthand awareness of what you believe is going to be in place that the U.S. government is going to look at, be prepared to share that as well. And then simply say, I need help navigating the system. And then take a step back, and the system will then tell you, oh, well, you can do it this way. Or the system will come back and say, I'm sorry, you can't do that. We're just not going to allow that. But that's a really specific piece of knowledge that, that commerce is going to have the best information on.
Great. And I'll just put in a plug that governments that charge fees, like the Commerce Department, if there are fees associated with their services, Gold Key, international partner searches, a broad range of costs, intellectual property protection, we're able to help with that. And so that is also eligible for STEP.
Hey, Michelle,
Yeah.
I wanted to bounce back to the individuals who say they've identified markets, and the state of New Jersey applauds you for that. And, if you could see me, I'd be standing on my chair applauding you. What I would do too, though, is I would encourage the businesses to look for the Commercial Country Guide for the countries that they believe they've got buyers in or they've got a market in. Commercial Country Guides are annually updated or very nearly annually updated. And there is a chapter 4, and it's called Best Prospects for U.S. Goods and Services. Zone in on that. And if what you make is right there, there's a really good chance that there is a market there for you and that U.S. Commercial Service is going to be prepared to support it. Now, if your product or service is not there, don't let that dissuade you. But the country commercial guides are free, they're current, and they're well written, and I cannot recommend them strongly enough. It's that simple. They're absolutely gold. So I wanted to pass that on.
Thank you so much, Bill. So we're coming to the end of our live event, and I see there are so many questions about how do I find XYZ, a mentor? How do I find my Small Business Development Center, my Women's Business Development Center, my Veteran Business Development Center, all of that. And first and foremost, how do I find STEP? So again, you can see it on the slide if you're online. The website is www.sba.gov/STEP, STEP, and that lists all the states that participate. Also, if you want to find local help to mentors and advisors and all, that is on sba.gov/local assistance. Local assistance. So I just really want to thank the thousands of businesses that took the time today to join us for this super important Access Live event. We've appreciated the opportunity to speak directly with you. And if you haven't already answered the questions we posed to you using slido.com, you can still give us your input anytime today. Again, just visit www.slido.com with the participant code 205257. And apologies if we weren't able to get to your question live. Feel free to leave a voicemail after the events once you're prompted, or you can send us an email at international@sba.gov. And we also have a wonderful website online on sba.gov/international. So thank you, presenters. Amazing, amazing stories. And we're really pleased to be associated with your success. Bill, thanks for all you do. Steve, this is great. And thanks to the participants, first and foremost, for joining us today. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.
Thanks, SBA.
Thank you.